All right. The broadcast is live. Good day, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Coach Peter. I'm here with Coach Eli. We're here for the next edition, the current edition, today's edition of Breaking Bad Careers, which is our way of giving back to all of you to help shed some light, help you get unstuck, whatever it might be, with your career transition challenges, with your career questions, and to share some ideas that we've been thinking about recently. And particularly today, we're going to be talking a bit about health and well-being. We're going to be sharing some thoughts, some perspectives around our health and well-being and the impact it has on our career management and our job searches and our career transitions. Based on our experience, Coach Eli and I have worked with thousands of individuals on their job searches, and so we've come to some perspectives around topics such as this. So we're going to talk about physical, mental, and spiritual health today. Before we jump into it, my name is Coach Peter Hill. I'm based here in the U.S. in the state of Hawaii, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, where it's 12 noon. And I'm an international career coach. I have been doing this type of work for more than 20 years. When Eli introduces himself, he usually talks about how many career transitions he's done. And it prompted me to think this morning about how many I've done. And I think officially the number is 9.
Oh, winner.
Right. Winner, chicken dinner. Well, I'm a little bit more, quote, experienced than you. So we're from a different generation, let's put it that way. So the odds are that I will have changed careers more times than you. But our listeners also have had lots of career changes, and our clients have had lots of career changes. But in my career, I've been blessed to be able to work with people from literally all over the world, from over 140 countries. I've been based in other countries myself. I've been based in Japan for 5 years, and China for 9 years, and then in London in the UK for a couple of years. And so many of the perspectives I bring are very international, and very much anecdotally driven from the stories and experiences I've had working with so many different types of people. But anyway, that's a bit about myself. Eli, off to you.
Thanks, Peter. So, as Peter mentioned, I am a 5-time career changer, and
I win.
Yeah, eventually I'll get to the 9, or maybe even supersede that. Let's see. We never know. I tend to get a little bit, I don't want to say bored, but curious. I get very curious about what else I could be doing after I've achieved a certain level within careers, and that keeps me going and trying new things. So, and that has me wanting to help clients do the same, right? I think it's important to stay curious, and that curiosity has also led me around the world, helping thousands of people think about what they could be doing that really aligns with who they are and what makes them tick. From supporting these individuals to leading teams of coaches who've then supported thousands of individuals, it's been a really fun journey. And like Peter mentioned, the reason we're doing this particular topic today is because there is a very specific correlation to well-being, both mental as well as physical, and the success that you can have and the balance that you can have within your career. So without taking too much more time, maybe we could just dive into physical well-being and how that plays into career health. And Peter, from what I have witnessed firsthand in your development, because Peter, if you don't know, was my director and mentor back at Holt International Business School in London. And when we had joined, we were under a lot of stress to just perform and build the team from scratch. And Peter had been doing a lot of that work. I don't want to say independently. There's a team of leaders in the career development space, but he was put on the ground in London to rebuild the team. And that tended to be pretty stressful. And over the time that I saw Peter develop in his role as a director, certain things changed in how he took care of himself, his diet, the way he exercised, that had a direct correlation with his ability to lead more effectively, and generally how he showed up every day at work with more energy and more pep in your step, if you will, Peter. So
Pep.
I feel more pep, man. So I'd love if you wanted to maybe just share a little bit about how you've had a personal experience with physical well-being enhancement and career progression.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll speak a bit about my journey, but I can also, for sure, I can pivot into what I've seen with some of the outcomes with some of my clients, right? But yeah, so look, it was, just before I made the transition from Shanghai, China, where I was also working for HALT as the director of the Shanghai campus, and moved over to London to take on a pretty large turnaround project, right? But it was in Shanghai where I made the decision to become a vegetarian. And it was a very conscious decision. And it wasn't as if, my diet was complete crap before that. But it certainly wasn't the best. There's plenty of opportunity for fast food in China. And yeah, it's easy, it's convenient. And, there's the international chains, but there's also local Chinese fast food. Not Panda Express, if anybody's wondering, right? And but I made the decision to go vegetarian after having literally, it was one lunch with a friend of mine who was vegetarian and is vegetarian, still a vegetarian, and interestingly a triathlete. I'm the type of person, I don't necessarily ease into things when I make a decision. So it's like kind of cold turkey, all or nothing is how I tend to approach most things. And it was no different when I made the decision to go vegetarian. So literally within a week, I had moved I moved to a primarily plant-based diet. And I say primarily because I was still eating, the occasional cheese pizza or, piece of fish here or there. But I got completely off of chicken, beef, and pork, all animal products, or all animal meats, right? And within a month, began to feel different. Right. And have a lot of clarity in my thinking. And I began to sleep better. Things like that, But anyway, by the time I moved to London, I was even easing more towards even more plant-based. And that turnaround project that you alluded to was a hell of a lot of hard work, and it brought a lot of unforeseen challenges that I wasn't expecting before I got on the plane and took the role, right? Through nobody's fault, it just kind of happened that way, right? And so, around the same time, shortly after I took the role in London and took on these projects, rebuilding the team and making sure that the population of students felt supported in their job searches. I also got inspired by somebody else who was actually a colleague of ours in London to begin running more regularly. And again, it wasn't like my physical health was crap. It wasn't crap either. I was a regular exerciser. I've been fairly fit my whole life. But I began to run on a more regular basis, several times a week, and was able to tackle my first half marathon after only 5 or 6 months of beginning to run on a regular basis. So, just to kind of summarize, not to get too verbose, but my personal experience has absolutely been, without a doubt, that my personal dietary choices around that period of time, and my decision to begin exercising more regularly, in my case, it was running, absolutely impacted my clarity of thinking, my decision-making processes, my ability to handle problems and challenges, my ability to have difficult conversations with team members, right? The ability to influence colleagues and stakeholders on projects, things like that. And it was palpable. It's very difficult to describe. And it wasn't like I was in a mental fog for the entire, X number of years prior to that. But it was definitely palpable.
I mean, there was a very noticeable difference, even just from the time that you were there to the way that you just held yourself and the type of energy you came in with, and just the way that we would even converse prior to just like the physical exercise piece of the integration into your life, right? And even through your, you played a big role in me shifting my diet as well, right? I was, it's one of those things where you like see someone and you hear someone talk about how something gives them so much energy, but I'm like, okay, because I used to come in, I'd heat up my food, I'd have like brisket or something like that, whatever it is, and I could see that, you weren't judging, but at the same time, it was like, I just know that if you would change this, you could see such an increase, right? Without saying it, right? You just kept up the actions. You never like push it on other people. You just kind of showed through example, and by your example, it became more and more curious to me, and that curiosity got the best of me as to, well, you know what, maybe I should try this. And then I started digesting some content around plant-based diets and things like that, which made me want to start trying to do, trying it out, right? And maybe a documentary was like What the Health, and there's Forks Over Knives, and there's so many interesting pieces of content that are very easy to digest in an hour and a half on Netflix, on Amazon Prime, on whatever your streaming services are. And I started reading books like not all of it, but I got into anecdotes from the China study, which you had recommended to me as well. And through this, I was like, wow, there's like a really strong argument, not just from a ethical standpoint on going towards a plant-based diet or an environmental standpoint, but actually I'm curious to see how it impacts my body. And through a lot of trial and error for about 3 years of religiously staying on a plant-based diet, I also saw a lot of positive increases in my energy, my decisions. I was able to hike the Camino de Santiago fully on a plant-based diet, which is about
love it.
25 kilometers a day that you're walking with about 25 pounds on your back. And I don't know, I just never looked back, and I didn't miss any of it, right? And it's certainly kept me more focused at work, able to take on more clients, working 2 jobs at the same time, coaching almost 14 hours a day some days. And it's sometimes you're just like, oh, I'm just kind of doing it. But if you really look at the differences on what one changes in their day-to-day and how it personally impacts them and their capabilities, there's a lot to be taken away from those changes.
Yeah, look, I learned from by following somebody else's example. I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't aware of vegetarianism before, but when I had that lunch with my friend in Shanghai, and he shared with me his journey, that really got me curious, right? And he wasn't trying to push anything on me either, but he piqued my curiosity. But you definitely brought up, I think, an interesting point as well about the various pieces of content out there. Yeah. Many of these, I mean, plant-based diet's a thing these days, right? For a whole variety of reasons. I actually, it wasn't until only just a few years ago that I realized how big this thing is. It's a pretty big thing, right? And there is some great content out there. I mean, the books you've already mentioned, some of the movies you mentioned, for the sake of sharing a couple of resources that I find really, really useful are the Rich Roll podcast. Rich Roll is a triathlete and plant-based advocate, all about sharing rather than pushing, right? Leading by example. And another one is called the Physicians Exchange podcast, right? With Dr. Neil Bernard, I believe, is a regular guest in the podcast. So yeah. Anyway, I found it very beneficial just for myself, and then to just to share my observation with some of my clients. My clients. My private clients are, they tend to be senior executives. They're global professionals. They're expats living around the world. They're at the VP and the C-suite level, and they're under a tremendous amount of pressure, right? They have international careers, international families, globally mobile families. The operational expenses of having that kind of a lifestyle are not inexpensive. And so there's a lot of pressure to provide, to maintain that lifestyle. And my observation is like crystal clear to me. My clients who are taking better care of themselves, not just exercising, but spiritually and mentally, they tend to manage the whole situation at a higher level. Right? It doesn't just mean they're in better control of their job search when they do look for a job, but they're showing up as better leaders at work. They're showing up as better husbands and wives and spouses and partners, parents, showing up as better parents, or even showing up as better sons and daughters. And it's not only my observation. I mean, I sometimes make it a point to kind of check in with my clients on like, hey, how's your diet? How's your exercise? That type of thing. Or to make observations like, wow, you look like you're really fit these days. What's going on, right? And so what I'm sharing with you in terms of what I observe, I'm also hearing back from my clients. They're like, oh yeah, I've been making it a point to get out 3 times a week for a walk or a run or something. And I got to tell you, Peter, it's making all the difference in my mental clarity. So I hear them reporting back to me as well. And I think that's a lot of where the anecdotal energy around what we're sharing today comes from.
Yeah. It's oftentimes people come into, I'm thinking of changing careers. I'm thinking of transitioning careers. I'm thinking of exploring other options, or they've just come off a layoff, or maybe an alternative situation. Maybe they're furloughed, whatever it is.
Yeah, sure.
And there's a lot going on in their life. It's not just about the career transition. And some of the work that we do is really helping clients look holistically at all the aspects that they're actively navigating and the balance that they're feeling across multiple areas in their life.
Yeah.
So health and wellness tends to be one of these key areas where if your satisfaction levels are quite low with where you're at, and then you have your relationships, of course, you have your finances, you have your career, you have your home environment, your life experiences, and the opportunities that you give yourself. There's like this whole wheel of balance that actively will support the energy that you have to drive your career goals forward. Now, if things are drastically out of balance and your health and wellness is low, which means your energy is low, which means also you might not be getting that much sleep, which means that you've gotten into like these poor routines. Well, the big question that my clients get is like, I know you're not telling me something I don't know. You're not telling me that something
Yes.
I don't know that, I need to get these back in balance. It's like, but how do you find the motivation to do it? What are some hacks that exist that help you get to this, from this place of, I know I'm out of balance in my health and wellness and maybe a few other areas, but this is really like the lowest. I know if I can get this up, I'll sleep better. I'll wake up feeling more energetic. I might even have more motivation to do the research and do the work for my career. I'll feel better about myself. My confidence will be picked up. There's so many pros that at a foundational level, this can impact, that actually does support a more proactive and effective job search. But Peter, you've been doing this for the last 5 years. Healthy diet, consistent exercise. I'll admit I'm human. My exercise has been off lately, but I'm picking it back up. what are some hacks that you could share that you've seen work to help motivate your clients and keep them on top of it, and also to motivate yourself?
Yeah. So, I'm not a health and well-being coach, so I don't necessarily jump on my clients for staying in shape or taking care of themselves. I mean, I have check-ins with them, and if they're interested in hearing my story, I do share it with them. Um, for myself, I've found that the pillar is really exercise, right? Like for me, that's the foundation. Because when I'm in better physical shape, I just kind of naturally want to eat better, right? Because after a good 5K or a good 10K, or last weekend I was out hiking out in the mountains here in Hawaii, and you get that adrenaline rush after a good hike or after a good run, and yeah. So do you want to go get a nice healthy kale, banana, apple, ginger smoothie and down that? Or do you want to run over to McDonald's and have a Big Mac? Now, you tell me which one your body is going to be craving after a nice 5K. It actually might crave both, but then after you consume both, which one is your body going to be happier with? Right? And I learned very quickly that the more I take care of my physical health, the more my body would react to the less ideal food I was putting into my body. Right. So that's my perspective, is starting with the exercise, and it kind of expands into your body, fine tuning itself and craving healthier foods. Right. And then that leads to a conversation around, my mental and spiritual health as well. But for me, it starts with the physical, for sure. And that's just the perspective I've come to recently. There are probably other ways of thinking about this, maybe starting with dietary changes before getting into exercise. But for me, it's absolutely the physical stuff. And by the way, we're not neither Eli or myself are here to propose any type of exercise regimen. And so we got to give the disclaimer: make sure you see your doctor before you start any exercise regimen. Yeah. But that's my perspective.
It's a solid perspective, right? And I do think, just a few hacks that have worked for me and that I've seen actually work for you as well is, it's like this, just community, right? Finding community. Who you surround yourself with plays a big impact on how you show up to building these types of habits. So community is one piece. Can I be around people who have these types of habits already that are going to motivate me and push me to do these things? Because if you have a friend group and all you do is go out for brunch and get totally bombed on Saturdays and Sundays, and then your partner is like, hey, let's just watch the tube, hey, let's just watch Netflix, hey, let's just do this, and really you want to get motivated, but everyone around you is like enticing you with these alternative activities that you've habitually built up a preference for, right? Then it's going to be really difficult to jump into that. And when it comes to like diet, something else there's this interesting study that I've been reading about. It was highlighted in this book called Atomic Habits, and it talks about environment. So there's this study where at this hospital, they found that most of the patients and most of the people that visited the hospital in the cafeteria, was a hospital, maybe it was like an old person's home, right, or a care facility, and they would go in and there was like soda everywhere, and they had like Gatorade, and they had all these options for drinks and food, and there was only one place in the refrigerators, which was far away for everything, where they could get like cold water. So they started seeing that people were dehydrated, they weren't getting this in. Someone came in, they were like, we don't need to like change anything in a drastic way. We don't even need to invest that much money. We just need to shift the placement of where we're putting the water. And over time, they ended up finding that water consumption went up by over 75% because they started putting bottles of water like near the tables in like these little cooled containers and up by the food. and shifting some of the food. Instead of like some of the snacks that would typically be out that were bad, they put fruits instead, and those were what were visible and more easily accessible. So,
Yes.
I know in my home, right, if I have ice cream in the freezer, and if I have bags of chips that are just kind of sitting there, they are calling my name at all different types of day because I'm craving them. So I just stop buying them. And instead, I take a fruit bowl, I put it right out on the counter, and I say, if I go into the kitchen, I'm like, okay, well, there's nothing in the cabinet. And there's this nice looking apple or some clementines or these freshly washed grapes that are just sitting right there. Let me just grab some, right? And all of a sudden, you put yourself in a position to be enticed to grab those things that are better for you. So community and the people that support you in making these decisions, and also the environment that you are creating and cultivating and choosing to live in or be in, right? Or the environments that you choose to go to make a huge difference. So I know that's like still on us to make the choices, go to the grocery store and not buy those snacks. Go out, our friends invite us out to brunch, but we're like, actually, there's a running group on that same day at that same time. I think maybe 2 weeks out of the month, I'm going to choose that instead.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you actually, Eli, I think you mentioned to me maybe a month or so ago that you were thinking about maybe joining a basketball league or basketball club near your place, or
Yeah.
has that happened yet? Or are you looking at running clubs? Or not to put you on the spot,
Yeah,
but
man, right on the spot in this publicly recorded place, I am going to let everyone know here that I am a human who says his dreams and says his goals out loud, but I am no different than most others, right? I feel really bad. I took an inventory of my balance recently, and I'm feeling pretty good about almost every area of my life except my exercise and my diet. And this is, for a while, that wasn't the case. But I've been focusing a lot of attention on my business, the work that we're doing, on cultivating a very wonderful partnership with my girlfriend and cohabitating and doing all these things. And not to say that exercise and well-being has to take a back seat. It never does. But in my mind, I was like, oh, I'll get back to it. And I just haven't, right? And little stints, when I came to visit in Hawaii, I was like, wow, we did the running club and that was a lot of fun. And I was like, wow, I'm not as out of shape as I thought I was. And maybe this is a good catalyst, right? And we would walk and we did all this stuff. And I came back and I didn't shift much in my environment, right? And I haven't been making the initiative. So I commit to all of you here today on Breaking Bad Careers, and I'm going to break a bad habit. And I'm going on a little bit of a getaway here in the next week, but I turned 34 on July 5th. And I'm looking forward to that week when I get back, joining this basketball league, which is literally a mile away. And I know they play on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings at 7 a.m., pickup games. And that's a very easy thing for me to do. I know I can block my calendar. I know I can get my butt up at that time in the morning. So any episode that we have afterwards, Peter, I give you permission to check me on it again. And
you got it.
I don't know what we'll do. If I'm not doing it by then, I'm going to give away 10 free coaching sessions.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I love it. Okay, this is being recorded for all the world to see, so no pressure, Eli.
Yeah, well, I'm giving away something I love to do. So
yeah, awesome. Look, you brought up the point of community. I think is really important. As you just talked about, when you were here, you joined me and the club I belong to, the Hawaii Running Project, and what I found really great about this particular running club is that it's non-competitive. It's very much just about having fun, fellowship, while staying in shape together, right? It doesn't hurt that the leader of the group, the grand poobah of our group, is vegan. He's completely plant-based, and he teaches us a few tricks about how he approaches his diets and how we can all live and eat and exist in a more healthy way. He does it in a very non-judgmental way. I think I might be one of the few that are actually fully plant-based in the group. But again, we're not doing it to push any agenda on the other group members. It's really just about sharing our experience, and it's all good, right? But the one thing we do have in common is that we love just staying in shape. We do short runs, we do long runs, we have fellowship. We're talking about doing Friday night potlucks this summer, now that travel and tourism is opening back up, and there's Friday night fireworks over at the Hilton, that type of thing. But this is a hack: getting plugged into a group that you feel comfortable with. If you're thinking about easing into running or walking or yoga or whatever it is, it's like, find the right community, because there's so many different flavors and energies behind these different groups. I personally probably wouldn't thrive in a group that was highly competitive, trying for personal bests at the 100 marathon every year, right? And when I get plugged into a group that I enjoy being in, it keeps me motivated. It keeps me on task. I look forward to going to running. I'm doing it 4 times a week now, right? And I'm absolutely loving it. And I'm able to block it off on my calendar. And it's non-negotiable. I'm going to these 4 running engagements every week.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And to get to that point where you have this mindset, right? There has to be, you also have to have a good relationship, I feel like, with yourself to know what you want, how you want to do it, hold yourself accountable to it, right? And that's also a very big part about career transition, career change, thinking about your career, thriving in your career. It's the physical aspect plays an important role in the health and wellness, but we have these other 2 aspects of health, right? And one is mental and the other is spiritual. So maybe we can dive into the mental side a little bit. And I know that mental health is now getting finally a lot of screen time and face time, and in front of a lot of like different companies, and this is being recognized that, hey, we're all human and we're all dealing with a lot. If you ever even like take it, there's this word that I like. It's called sonder, right? And it's an interesting word. It's walking around and thinking about and seeing people around you and imagining the complexity of their realities that they're experiencing in comparison to how complex your reality is, right? Fun word, because it's just it has such a deep meaning. And when you think about it, as humans, we are just all terribly, terribly complex, dealing with loads of emotions and experiences in life, traumatic experiences, stuff that we may not have even realized is traumatic. And we hold on to all of this stuff. And as we continue to grow throughout our careers and try to show up in certain ways, we fall into behaviors that are responses to these experiences that we have that have a lot to do with our own mental health. And often, I use the word respond, but oftentimes we're not responding. We end up reacting to life instead of having the time and taking the time to understand ourselves, so that way we could respond to certain situations in ways that really uplift us and uplift others. So this concept of being conscious of your mental health is super important, and how it plays into careers is, and we see it every day, and I'll let you speak to this and what you see with your clients, but definitely with my clients, it's a lot of anxiety around whether or not they're good enough to achieve whatever they think they should be achieving. There's a lot of comparison, which comes from social media, of how they're looking at other people and their successes and their milestones, and saying, well, I'll never, how come I'm here, right? I went to the same school, I have the same education. Why am I here? Is it because I'm not enough? Is it because I'm not capable? And then ego starts to bring them back down. It's like, hey, it's better to just stay where you are, remain complacent. You don't want to fail. You don't want to put yourself out for rejection. And all of this stuff just starts to weigh on you. And as it comes time to switch and transition, you find yourself almost paralyzed in fear of moving forward, not feeling enough. Your confidence levels are very low. We're coming from a place of lack, what I'm lacking, right? And this is really not a great place to come from when you're going into transitioning careers. And really a lot of the work that we end up doing is mindset and confidence-based work with our clients to help them realize that actually there are a lot of great experiences and things that you do very well. And if you can realign with those things, you're going to be able to, one, see yourself through them and continue to build yourself up, because it's a muscle like anything else. Like we can work our muscles and do exercises where we can see physical gains, but with our mental health, we can't see it. It's all inside of ourselves. But literally, with every positive word we say to ourselves inside, with every positive experience we remember, and every thought that we were able to catch before we go down a negative spiral, we're rewiring the synaptic responses in our minds. So really, this concept of mindfulness and shifting your mindset and being cognizant of what's going on in here plays a huge role in your success if you're planning to transition careers. But that's much easier said than done.
It is easier said than done. Even the best of the best struggle with many of the challenges you just described. If I could share a bit about what I see in my clients. So just give me a moment while I collect my thoughts about how I want to share this. But to speak in simple terms, I will see clients operating from either a powerful state of being or a primal state of being, right? And not to unpackage all the different layers of what this can mean and the impact it can have on the way you manage a career transition. But in very simple terms, when I see clients operating in a powerful state of being, they tend to have more clarity on the outcome they want, right? And so for you and me as career coaches, we both work with our clients. One of the milestones is helping them identify plan A, B, maybe C for the three pillars of an employment target, right? The industry, the function, and geography.
Yeah.
And so my clients who I see that are more in a primal state of being, right? A state of overwhelm or frustration or anger, feeling like they're not in control, feelings of fear and anxiety, they tend not to have much clarity, or they tend not to put as much effort into gaining the clarity that could be tremendously beneficial for them in their transition, right? So what typically comes out of that, and by the way, are you hearing a bunch of background noise from my side? Because
it's a little bit, but it's not too distracting.
No? Okay, if I need to get up and close the balcony door, you let me know. But they've decided to start doing something downstairs. Maybe they're cutting the grass or something. But what typically comes out of this lack of clarity, or a more defined sense of clarity for people who are operating in a powerful state, are questions, and a specific quality of questions. So the people who are operating from a sense of more clarity, they tend to have more empowering questions versus somebody who doesn't really have the clarity. The types of questions they might ask are, oh man, why aren't employers responding to my resume submissions? Okay, yeah, I reached out to my network of friends and family, but Nobody's responding to me. Why not? Or, oh, wow, I just had 3 interviews with my dream company and they told me to get back to me in a week. And it's been 2 weeks and I haven't heard back. What's going on?
Yeah.
I must not be good enough. Right? And so, of course, you know where I'm going with this. With those folks who are who have the clarity, who are operating from a powerful state, they're going to ask much more empowering questions, right? Oh, okay. It's been 2 weeks since I had the interview. They haven't responded to me. What can I do to inquire with the company and see how the process is going? Or, oh, okay. Companies aren't responding to my traditional job applications. Gee, I wonder how I can learn some different non-traditional approaches to get on the radar screen of employers. These are empowering questions, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so my question, this is a loaded question, but you mentioned the word fear. So which of these 2 scenarios is somebody operating more in it from a fear-based reality versus a confidence-based reality?
Yeah. So 100%, when you're asking the right questions and seeing how you can regain control of the situation, that's coming from a place of confidence, 1,000% of the time. And when you rescind control and you're like, well, look at everything that's happening to me, you take the victim mentality, which, listen, it's okay to feel like things are happening to you, right? We all feel that way sometimes, but once you get stuck there, it's really easy to stay there. And that's going to leave you in a place of always wanting, always being reactive to life, reactive to situations. And at the end of the day, you have to give yourself permission to move. You have to give yourself permission to retake control. There's no reason to remain on autopilot. It's like you don't even know what the destination is. Most of the time you're on autopilot going to God knows where. And that is really one of the main causes of anxiety for a lot of people. It's like, I'm going somewhere and I don't even know if that's where I want to go, but I don't think I can change it. Well, that's bullshit. You can always change it. You can always change some aspect of it. All right.
Yeah.
And it's empowering when we do see clients go from this mindset of lack, of scarcity, of reactivity, like, to a mindset of control, of possibility, of driving and taking action. And like you said, like sometimes it's clarity, but I even have clients who get clear on what they want, Peter, right? And I'm sure you've seen this too, but there's still self-doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. There's limiting beliefs and there's a quality of thinking that's not very intelligent.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have the theory that it's not just mental, right? And this is where we go to our like third area of health. There's this spiritual aspect, right? This is, if I get too out there, Peter, you just tell me and I'll rope it back in.
I'll reel you in. Don't worry.
You have the spiritual aspect, right? This is we're all energetic beings at the end of the day. We run on electricity. We are emitting frequencies. We give off a vibe when we're around people and we're low. People are like, yo, you're right. You seem off. Right? You don't even have to say anything. When you're around someone and you get a feeling, you're like, I don't know. I'm not feeling the situation with this group of people or this person. You're getting vibes. You're picking up energy. And there is some scientific evidence that proves that we emit electromagnetic frequencies for up to 6 feet around ourselves, right? So what we feel scientifically has a lot to do with this frequency that we're giving off. So we could be vibrating high depending on our energy, or we could be vibrating low. And high meaning, we're in a good place, we're positive, we're feeling good about things are going our way, we talk positively to ourselves, our subconscious is feeling good about how it is in this body, right? And low is we're having a lot of negative self-talk. We're very critical, hyper skeptical, just very pessimistic views on things. Oh, this is going to be a great party. Like, oh man, like I don't even like anyone here. stuff that we all say, and we have all these negative anticipations, right? So already our vibe's low, so it's very likely that that's what we're going to feel when we go into these situations. We're really setting ourselves up. So on a spiritual level, how do we counteract something that we can't see, right? Well, in my opinion, this is not too difficult, but you can do it from a place of really honing in on this idea of self-compassion and self-love, not from a place of, well, let me take myself to the spa and treat myself, but really from a place of, let me honor the person that I am. I am smart. I am good. I am kind. There are a lot of things that I am that make me a good person, a humble person, a wonderful person that people want to be around, right? I am enough. And just saying some of these things, these affirmations on a regular basis and building them into your vocabulary makes a very, very big difference as it relates to this spiritually, how you're showing up, which then ultimately starts to alter and shift your mental state, which helps you start thriving when it comes to the decisions that you make, the way you feel about transitions in your career, how you show up day in and day out in your relationships, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. What do you think, Peter?
I think the energetic field includes cameras. So if your camera right now is within 6 feet of you, then I'm feeling it, right? And you and I have worked together for long enough to know that actually the energy does come through the camera. And when you and I are working on projects, we do check each other on a regular basis about, hey man, you're not yourself, or how are you showing up today, or whatnot, right? Yeah. So I do. For sure, it's not only clarity, for sure, right? There's a lot of things to really examine around our limiting beliefs in ourselves, in our limiting beliefs about the world around us, our limiting beliefs about other people, our limiting beliefs about our capabilities, and when you think about kind of the I'll call it a supply chain, the chain reaction, right? I talked about this idea of clarity leading to more empowering questions, leading to confidence. And if we take it a step further, when you have confidence and you have the clarity and you're asking yourself better questions, then one of the tangible results is that you're going to have action plans, versus the person who is operating from a primal state, lack of clarity, asking shitty questions, fear-based, which leads to a reaction plan.
Yeah.
Right? And living life in a reactive state. And for sure, as career coaches, we don't even believe in reaction plans when it comes to career transition. Everything we do is about being proactive and putting plans into action and making happen what you deserve in your career, right? So yeah, to really peel it back, for sure, there's probably a lot of conversation around what are the types of decisions we're making. Are they empowering or not?
Yeah.
Right. And then of course there's some daily practices. Both you and I are believe in meditation. I also take spiritual care of myself through my running. When I am out running, I don't have my AirPods in listening to music or podcasts. I am running in complete silence, and I'm meditating on things, not meditating in silence or letting ideas go, but actually meditating on problems and meditating on conversations I've had.
Yeah.
Right. This is, without a doubt, this is a spiritual practice for me and others. How about you? What else do you do? I know that you're a meditator, but what else do you do to take care of your spiritual health? Or what have you seen with your clients?
Yeah. So I think these aspects of mindfulness are really helpful, where you can just really give yourself, even if it's 2 minutes, to just kind of sit and give yourself the space to just experience your thoughts without being judgmental, right? It's really just kind of shifting focus. And I guess this is one of the core concepts of meditation. It's not really whether you're doing it right or wrong, or you're overthinking too much. It's really, can I just become an observer of thought instead of a reactor to thought, or someone who just gets lost in thought? So when you give yourself the space to just sit, even if it's in 2 minutes, and you're like, okay, thought, that's another one. That's interesting. And, even if it's outlandish stuff, it's very easy when you have outliers of thought that could be very scary or grotesque or fear-based, right? We're human. We have 60,000 a day. You better damn well believe something's going to be an outlier. It's very easy to get caught up in, wow, I can't believe I thought that. There must be something wrong with me. Or like, oh, wow, that really negative thing is actually, what if that does happen? Oh my God, and then this could happen. And then you get down a loop, and then this loop turns into a mood, and then this mood lasts for days sometimes, right? So this definitely affects how you show up and your energy, right? You end up getting depleted. So I think mindfulness alongside the meditation, regardless of how you do it, is going to be important, because it's going to rewire the mental aspect, like the synaptic responses in your mind, right? So that's big. Another thing that's been working for me drastically is therapy, right? I struggle with anxiety. In fact, I was probably clinically depressed. I just never went to a clinician to tell me I was, but everything I read told me I was. And really that came from a space of being fully disconnected, right? Being around the wrong people, losing myself in others, being a people pleaser, wanting to always make others feel good, putting them before me, pouring out of my empty cup, or whatever I had left in my cup. I'd pour a little bit more and I'd pour it directly to somebody else, right? And it's true what they say. You can't pour out of an empty cup. Fill it up first. Feel full, feel whole. And this concept of being whole is challenging, because so much of our life we're meant to feel like we need others to help us feel whole. This person makes me feel like this, or this situation, I feel like a victim to this. Like, that's not fair. Listen, at the end of the day, if we rescind how we feel and we give that power to somebody else and how they make us feel, then we're giving up so much control and building a better relationship with ourselves, so that way we can be whole. So that way, no matter what bullshit's coming in from the outside, we can say, I don't actually need that. Like, I already know what I know about me. And it doesn't matter what anyone else says, thinks, feels, does, or I just know that holistically, holy, I am holy with a W, right? I'm wholly full, and I don't need anything else to fill my cup. And from that, I can then give to others, and I can continue to give to myself, and I can do so from a state of true empowerment, right? And it was thanks to therapy that I got to do that. And if anyone has gone to therapy and did not enjoy it, I highly recommend looking into some alternative therapy styles. I use this style called Psych K with a brilliant practitioner. And it was helpful in going in and doing some soul surgeries, basically like undoing subconscious agreements that I made from the time I was a young child that you don't even realize that you're making, right? And it's really powerful what you can do when you do have a really good therapist and you're also open to it. And you give yourself the space and make the time and make the investment. So that's a huge positive. And of course, anyone who is religious, through prayer, through positive self-talk between yourself and God and Allah and Yahweh and whoever it is, whatever deity, whatever source energy you believe in, right? Or even if you don't, maybe it's just science, but just kind of leaning into this concept of speaking positive thoughts out there for yourself and for others, whether you're speaking to a deity or you're just speaking to yourself. It makes a huge difference.
So I think it's also important to acknowledge or to suggest, maybe, like, okay, you've just shared a bit of your story. we're all human. We all have similar questions. Ideally, they're more empowering than fear-based or disempowering questions, but we're all human. If you and we know for sure many of our clients, if not all of our clients, have the same types of questions, then I think it allows us to be more compassionate with other people who might otherwise make us react to them, or where we give up control to them.
Yeah.
You know, if we were to recognize that they're on the same journey, they're asking themselves the same questions, maybe they're lacking the same clarity, maybe they're operating from a similar fear-based paradigm, then it allows us to be more compassionate towards them rather than reactive to them or reliant upon them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm describing my thoughts accurately, but
yeah, man, 100%. There's a really good podcast that I listened to the other day. I think it was Oprah, and it's Oprah's podcast, but she's written a book with this other gentleman. He's a brilliant child psychologist, and I think the book is called "What Happened to You," right? And it's almost like exactly what you're talking about. It's this concept of understanding that, listen, we don't know, and we can't possibly understand what someone else has gone through. Like, even if we are in the same career and we went to the same school and they, come from similar-ish families, still the dynamics, the aspects, the day-to-day, the seconds that have gone by have all cultivated some differentiator that makes us so terribly unique that this idea of just asking a question, well, what did happen to this other person that they're acting in this way, or that they're doing this? And, ultimately, perhaps you can create some type of dialogue with them in a healthy way that supports a healthier growth of that relationship if it's someone's close to you, and you need to improve that dynamic. But it does help us keep ourselves in a very empathetic place, but also in a place of, well, yeah, I don't really know what they could be going through, but I'm sure it's something, because if that's the reaction I'm getting, or if that's what's being projected onto me, then there's something deeper that's going on for them, and that's for them to figure out. And I guess I have to be okay with where they're at, right? And I can't really think of much healthier responses that we can have to others, other than, hey, I wish you well, and I want to support you, and I'm not going to give all of myself to doing that, because that's going to bring me down. I need to remain where I'm at, but I'm going to do what I can so that way we can be at the same level eventually, if that's where we're meant to be. So, yeah, it's this compassion, this empathy, and this level of, I'll never fully understand, but at least I can try to understand at some level.
Should we tie a bow on this conversation?
I think so.
Yeah. We could talk for hours about this one for sure, and we probably have, hundreds of stories of different clients and stories and whatnot to give examples of what we're talking about here today, or at least our observations around them. So let's see, what did we talk about? We talked about physical health, mental health, and spiritual health, right?
Yeah.
And the basic premise that the better we take care of ourselves, the more positive impact it has on something as simple as a job search, which is, or career decision making, which is the way that you and I tend to help people. So, right on. Great conversation.
Yeah, man, this was a lot of fun, and we hope that anyone who was listening took something, even if it's just a tidbit, even if it's just a reframe.
A tidbit.
Yeah.
Is that a millennial phrase, or?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think it's British. I think I picked it up in the UK. Bits, So
a tidbit, a small bit.
We just hope that there was something that you could have taken away, and if so, what is one action that you could take to just apply that to how you think about your health and well-being, to ultimately impact the way that you take action on, or reflect on, or navigate your upcoming career transition, or how you navigate through your existing role in your job and the conversations you have and the responses that you choose to give in those positions. So we hope that you found value in this. Peter and I love doing these, and we'll be back in about 2 weeks' time for another episode of Breaking Bad Careers and Habits.
Right on. Thanks, Eli. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time.
All right.